So, Livy, we've known each other for years. Tell me, why now do you feel that you want to speak publicly about everything?
I think a mixture of things. I think for my own sanity, to get it out there, for the charity, and actually for my family and friends, because I've been, for the last, it'll come up for 3 years next week, the 16th, that I nearly ended my life. And I've not really spoke about it. People will always ask, you've got a mental health charity, why do you set a charity up? And I kind of like jump about of trying to say without saying, does that make sense? And it's all a protection thing. And embarrassed and ashamed and guilt. And I think now I feel like I am being a bit of a hypocrite. I don't know if hypocrite's the right word, but I'm telling people they need to open up and speak. They need to tell and not be ashamed of their story.
And I think for you though, it is a journey, isn't it? And you probably wouldn't have been able to do that 3 years ago.
No.
So it has taken you to this point. And that's why you can help people, because you know how it feels. You know that you can say it now and you want to say it now, but then it would have been too hard.
Don't get me wrong, it's still hard. This is still like a huge thing, but I think I got a fright a few weeks ago, and it made me realise that if I hadn't have addressed the problems 3 years ago, things would have been a lot different a few weeks ago. Does that make sense?
Of course.
So obviously, 3 years ago on the 16th September, when probably people thought I was in a good place, I decided that I just couldn't take any more. And it literally was like a light switch. And that's a big thing that I want to get across to people, because people will say to me, we work with so many people now that have sadly lost relatives or family members and friends, that they didn't leave a note. We didn't see any signs. It's just happened. That was me. A bit different. I did leave notes. I was very well prepared, but I think that's my background of being an organiser.
Yeah.
So, but the way it happened that night, I hadn't thought about suicide beforehand. When I look back, and when the person that saved me pointed out, I was struggling for a good few months, especially 3-4 weeks beforehand. But it was like a light switch moment for me. It literally was like someone switched a light switch off, and I knew, oh, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. Very calm, very into organising mode. Right, I need to find passwords for this and that, and I need to leave out my life insurance. I need to leave out letters to the kids and to family members to explain why this has happened. And I even left letters to people who had put me in that situation. I mean, it's been a build-up of things, obviously. But there was I'd left a job in 2016. It wasn't nice circumstances. I really struggled. I was feeling worthless. I had no confidence. I'd lost everything. I wouldn't get out of bed. And I always remember my friend just got a wee cafe just down the road, and known her for years. And she said to me, "Come and work for me. Come and just make coffees." And I was like, I can't make coffees. Like, I can't, like, no confidence to even make somebody a cup of coffee. Now I ran a hotel. I had a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Making coffees should be absolutely fine.
And can I ask you something? Did you feel something wasn't right inside yourself? Did you feel at the time where you decided that day and the switch went off, something's not right? Or did you actually think, I'm good, this is the right thing to do? Did you feel...
I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt really worthless. I felt that nobody would miss me, including my kids. And it's... And of course they would miss me. But at the time, I couldn't give them what a mum should give them.
And if you felt so calm and so relieved, that was the best way.
Yeah,
and you do think that you're not thinking rationally, so you're not thinking how they would actually be devastated. Of course they would. You're thinking it's the best thing for everybody.
I just felt that they wouldn't, and it sounds really silly now, but I just felt they wouldn't miss me. I just felt that I wasn't being the mum that I should have been. I wasn't being the daughter that I should have been. I wasn't being the sister that I should have been. And the friend. And I just felt if I wasn't here, everybody would step in. My mum and dad would step in, my sister, my brother, Jack's dad, Kirsty and Jack's dad, who, although we're separated, have a great relationship. Fantastic stepmom. So I knew that they were going to be looked after. I knew that they wouldn't want for anything, and actually at the time I thought they'd be better off without me, because I'm not giving them what I should be giving them. But actually now when I look back, like, I was giving them love. Like, what more do they need? They don't need material things. Jack was getting bullied at school. It was bringing back loads of memories for me. I was really badly bullied at school and didn't tell anybody. And I regret that now. And that made me really angry, watching him go through the same. And I was determined that he wasn't going to... I left school in 4th year because I needed to get away from it, and I would try and get into trouble to get expelled, and it would never work. And I always remember saying to my dad, I'm leaving school. And he tried to call me bluff. He's like, you're not leaving school unless you get into college. I had no exams, I had nothing. The only college I could get into was agricultural college. Now obviously I worked in the farm, I loved the farm, that's what I wanted to be, was a farmer at the time. And so I got accepted to agricultural college, and dad had to let me leave. But I was just so relieved to get away from the bullies. It was just horrendous. So when I seen this with Jack, and he was very open with us, but I still felt I couldn't even control that. I couldn't stop that from happening.
Does that stem back, do you think, Libby, from being bullied when you were at school?
Yeah,
the fact that, you know, nobody, well, your mum and dad didn't know, the school didn't know, but the fact that nothing happened. So it was that kind of way, you had to take it, you had to find your own way out of it, because you felt, did you just feel at the time, if you had said, what age were you, 14, 15?
14, 15.
If you had said to the teachers and to your mum and dad, they would have done something about it.
Yeah, I think it's different now. Like back then, things were a lot different, and bullying was never something you talked about. You just got on with it. A bit like now, like people say, you have to man up. And I think I was and just like what's been on in my life in the last few years, I'm just protecting my mum and dad. And that's what I always thought, was I have to protect mum and dad and not worry them and not worry anybody else, because I can deal with this. I can, and I mean, trying to get out of school, trying to get expelled from school was my way of dealing with it. But actually when then people would look at it and go, oh, what's she up to? Like, we rogue, or she's not doing this or she's not doing that. But actually I was just trying to get away. Like, none of this has stemmed from any family, anything, and this is what upsets me more, is because I have probably the most loving family.
But that's why you want to protect them, and you don't want them to worry, because you think that they've been a brilliant family. They don't deserve that. But what never mind your own needs. They don't deserve that because they're a brilliant family, which they are. But it stops you from asking for help.
Yeah, and I would always like be spoken down to and just accept it. In relationships as well, just be spoken down to, not with my husband or anything, like, but with relationships after that, just cheated and just, oh, this is just also the way things are supposed to be. And that obviously when things came to a head, like with the job I was in, and I decided to to leave it, and I did, and then things weren't changing. Like in my life, I was still, no matter what I did, I just felt like I was always worthless, and that's the way to put it. And I feel embarrassed saying that, but that's exactly how I felt. Like I had no confidence. I'm still struggling just now to find confidence. But I just felt that if I'm not here, like no one's going to miss me. Like generally nobody, and that's, I don't laugh about it now, but I sit and think, Libby, what was going through your head that you felt that nobody would miss you? And I always remember that night sitting at the kitchen table, and I had like bank statements out and bills and things, and I had 22 pence in my account, and I thought, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay my car? How am I going to feed the kids? Like, what am I going to do for Christmas? And it was like, right, I know, if I'm not here, mum and dad will step in, my life insurance will kick in, and everything will be fine, and the kids will get looked after the way they should be getting looked after. And that's basically how straightforward in my head it was. And it was like a weight had been lifted. So I started writing letters to And I've got a couple that I keep reading just to, when I'm feeling a bit rubbish, read them just to remind myself that you idiot. That's basically what I think.
And what was the difference between 3 years ago then and 3 weeks ago feeling rubbish?
I know the signs. I know when I'm struggling. And I've built up a really good friendship now. Because at the time, back to that night, obviously, wrote the letters and then decided that was it. And Kirsty was working in a wee bar at the time. Jack was at his dad's. And obviously we got the luxury of staying in Loch Lomond. I drove up to a wee place up near Ariker, just a wee car park. I don't think I've ever been at it before. And then went in, parked the car up, took a picture of the car. And I always remember the AA van, for some reason, sitting in the corner, and the guy just like looking at us and saying, "What are you doing? You weirdo, take a picture of your car." But I love my car. And in my head I was thinking, I'll send that to Kirsty. She'll know where I am. She'll be able to tell everybody where I am. There'll be no Facebook appeals. There'll be no police appeals. They'll come and they'll just know that I'm away, and they'll all get on with their lives. And that really sounds really silly and stupid and yeah, just bizarre. But that's how my head was thinking. Yeah, so I went down to the water, and there was a couple of people camping. I think they were foreigners. It was really peaceful, really quiet, gorgeous night. And I can't really remember too much about it, and I still can't remember like timescales. I just know that it was 7:30 that I put a tweet and a Instagram post out, because I've still got the thing. I took it off, but I've still got the thing to look at. And I still really don't know the time scale of when I went in, but I walked into the water, fully clothed.
What, you weren't even aware of the cold or
No, not at all. And I look back now and think, these poor people. I was aware of hearing voices in a foreign language, but so I went in and I was just about to send Kirsty the text message, and my phone rang. And had it been my mum or my dad or a friend's, I would have probably thrown the phone in the water, to be honest. And I know that feeling. I still know that feeling when that phone rang. And it'd have been out of like embarrassment, like I can't answer the phone to mum and dad. It might have snapped me out of that, because I do believe that suicidal thoughts and suicidal things is, if someone can snap you out, it works. So obviously the phone went, and there was a mixture of anger and worry for this person. So anger because I couldn't work out why I was phoning, because I hadn't spoken to him in 2 years, over 2 years. Not for any reason, apart from there was no need to speak to him, yeah. And also a wee bit like, I wonder why he's phoning, like I wonder if he's okay. Like, so I was straight into then, I wonder if he's okay. So anyway, I answered
and
it.
again, it's like that kind of thing with you where you don't want to upset, offend, worry anybody else. So that kind of thing of putting your own needs again to the bottom to answer the phone to somebody you've not spoken to for 2 years, in case they're okay or not okay.
I know. So I answered it, and I think I was a bit kind of like, "What are you phoning for?" Like, and I'm not usually like that, but and he didn't say anything as in, "What are you doing?" I just want to check you're okay. And I said, "I'm fine." Like, and we had this conversation. Can't remember much about it, but I remember thinking, "I'm cold." I remember that feeling of like, I'm cold. I mean, I was like, shit, I'm in the water. Like, what? And again, it was like a light switch moment. And all we spoke about, I think, was what the weather was like, and what it was not like. He didn't panic me, and I think he was very careful of not doing that. And then it was like a light switch, like, shit, I'm in the water. What's happened? And I panicked. And I remember the water being about up to here, and I was absolutely freezing. And I said, I need to go, and I didn't say to him, I'm in the water. I just said, I need to go. And he's like, right, well, phone me back. Like, no, I need to go. And so I left, and as I was coming out, these poor foreign people were like, are you okay? Like, broken English, and trying to put rugs around me, and I'm just like, please leave me. And I remembered everything. I'd left letters, and I thought if Kirsty gets home and finds these letters, and like what, and I was just, the guilt of was just horrific, absolutely horrific. And I drove home, and just hid everything, and for some bizarre reason, decided to put a face on and a dress on, and I just knew I needed to be with Kirsty, or with somebody that I would feel safe with. So something I never ever do as well is I put a face on and drove over to her work and said to her, "You on till finish?" She went, "Yeah, why?" I said, "I'm going to have a few drinks, will you drive me home?" I remember going, "Mum, like you don't come out drinking your own, like what are you doing?" But it's a local, it's where I was brought up, so there was lots of people I knew, so I just sat at the end of the bar, and shame to say it, but I got pretty drunk with some friends, but again a safe group of, it was my brother's friends actually, and I think they were all a bit like, what's going on here? But I think everybody kind of knew I was going through a really horrible, shitty time, to be honest, pardon French, but so anyway, Kirsty brought me home, and unbeknown to me, she went to Mum and Dad, I think the next couple of days, and said, "I'm really worried about Mum, like there's something not right." So the person that had phoned me down south contacted an ex-footballer up here, like an old school footballer, like mental health is not something you would expect him to be talking about, but again he struggled with it due to different things, so he contacted me. I met him on the Monday. Before I knew it, he had me in private counselling and was paying for it, and I was again ashamed, and he's like, "I'm not even taking any no for an answer, this is what you're doing and I'll take you every week." And I wouldn't be here without him, and I wouldn't be without the guy that phoned me, and the reason I remember phoning him back and saying, "How did you know? Like, how did you know something was wrong?" He said, "For 3 weeks you've been putting up random things on your Instagram that wasn't you." He said, "I've followed you since I've known you, and you just changed, everything changed. It just was very, very dark, but in a really kind of clever way." And he said, "I only knew that because that's how I was feeling." He says, "I was really struggling." He says, I could click with you." And he said, "A few times I went to phone you and something would happen and I wouldn't phone you." He says, "But that night when you put that up," he says, "although the post was really, oh, Libby's having a nice night outside of the loft," he says, "something just told my gut that something wasn't right." And I know for a fact if he hadn't phoned, I wouldn't be here. I know that, because I needed something to click me back out of that. And that's why I say to a lot of people, suicide is just a temporary thought. It's not, you just need someone to click that button to get you back out of it. Whether it's a phone call, a text message, or going for a walk, I don't know. It's just, they're all temporary thoughts. So anyway, went into counselling, didn't tell anybody, and started to kind of find my confidence again, and made Back Onside into charity, and for the first year I think was still really struggling, no confidence, couldn't, still, "Oh, this won't work. And I don't know where or when it happened, but I definitely think I got over what I dealt with. And I remember telling a couple of friends what I'd went to do. I say friends because I'm not now, and they were just like, "You're so selfish, like how could you have done that?" And it gave me a bit of a wobble, and I thought I was really selfish, and how, like, what was I going to do to my kids and my family? So I then became a recluse again and got really embarrassed and thinking I can't tell anybody that I've tried this or went to do this because that was really selfish of me. But now, doing the job that I do and meeting the people I am, it wasn't selfish. It was far from selfish. It was actually probably pretty brave, because to go and make that decision to end your life, to what you think is helping other people.
To help other people, to give the sort of ultimate sacrifice. But it's just, I think what some people try and do is from their own rational brain think, why would you do that? So you're going to get all the wrong answers.
Yeah.
Because you're not putting yourself in the shoes of that person and how they were feeling at that moment. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, it's not coming from a bad place, it's not coming from a selfish place, it's just there's no other option at that moment. So
and there is, I mean, there's lots
just in that second, that's how you feel in that second. But you know, if you can just switch that, flick that switch, speak to somebody, reach out, which is why that you're doing the charity, that you'll get out of that place.
Yeah.
You can get out of that place quickly, or it might take a bit of time, but you will get out of that place.
There's nothing in your life that can't be fixed. Unless, obviously, you're terminally ill, or whatever. I get that, like, obviously that can't be, but situations that I was in, that it can all be fixed. And it was fixed so easily because Kirsty spoke to Mum and Dad, and Mum eventually didn't really ask questions, just said, right, what's going on? And I said, I've got no money and I don't know what I'm going to do. And they're like, we can fix this problem. It's fixable. And they stepped in, and I'm ashamed to say it, 40 odd plus years old, I was relying on Mum and Dad to pay my bills. But they weren't embarrassed with that, and they weren't holding that against me. It was me. Like, I've been a single mum for a long time, and pride was getting to me, and I had to put that aside, and it took me a long time to realise that.
And even I think it's good for people to hear that, like, your mum and dad are a lovely, kind, caring mum and dad that would do anything for you, but sometimes that's even harder, because you would do anything but hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to say to them, because you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to worry them.
I mean, I know that I've drip fed Mum and Dad and my brother and stuff what's happened, like, and I mean drip fed. They've got no idea that they're going to watch this and be devastated. But I need to do it because they need to know this isn't their fault. There's nothing they could have done. And this is why so many other people, this is why we need charities like Back Onside, because people will not go to their families in the fear that they're going to hurt them. Mm-hmm. And I now work with so many people that have lost people and think, that could have been me, I could have done that to my family. And it breaks my heart that my mum and dad could be one of those families that charity's looking after. And I think that's why we need to talk. I need to, as a founder of a mental health charity, need to stop being embarrassed about what I've really done. But obviously 4 weeks ago, like, when that happened, it was an employment breakdown and a monetary thing. And this time it was a relationship breakdown. And I thought, I've had relationship breakdown before, and dealt with them. But this was different, and I don't know why. And it completely floored me. And it worried me, because I went back the way. I went back to not getting out of bed and coming off social media and having no fight, just giving up, and just feeling I was absolutely humiliated through it, and made to feel worthless again. And, like, what was the point? Like, why is this repeating again? And one of my friends said, because you're letting people basically go in your nature, and just, they'll know that they'll get away with it, whether it's an employee or a partner or a friend. And the reason it didn't go back to being in the lock again was because I had then, in the last 3 years, I've built up a circle of friends, you being one of them obviously, that I trust, and that I know me, and they know the signs.
And would you say to people, because that was good what you said earlier, that sometimes folk don't know what to say, they genuinely, but you don't actually have to know what to say.
You don't have to say anything.
Just listen and let the person speak. There isn't a right thing you need to say, just listen.
Yeah, and that is the key, I think. When somebody's feeling so low, say nothing. Just send a text saying, and don't ask. This is what my friends are really good at doing. They'll say, I'm coming round. So I won't get the option to say, no, you're not. I do that with my family, and I feel really guilty about it. I say, no, I'm fine, this, I'm busy, and half the time I'm not, I'm lying in my bed. But I can't. Family's different because they want to protect you in a different way. I know that as being a mum. I know that with how when Jack went through his bullying and all the rest of it. So they want to swoop in and fix things. But if you don't know how to be fixed or what's going to fix it, it's impossible to try and explain to them. So I think one of the main things I say is get that really good wee bubble of friends. And it might be, I've lost pretty much all my friends over the last 3 years who I thought were friends, but they weren't friends. And now I've got my proper close friends that I know no matter what time. It's like your 2 o'clock in the morning friends. That's what I call them. But you phone at 2 o'clock, they're there. And I'd like to think I was like that with them. And I suppose Back Onside is that with everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's that 2 o'clock in the morning friend.
Well, that is quite often when people feel at their lowest ebb. You can't sleep, everything's going round in your head. You start worrying about everything seems huge at 2 o'clock in the morning, insurmountable.
I know, I'm going to say just reach out, but that's the hardest thing to do. But find somebody, even if it's a stranger walking down the street, and just say, please help. You'll be drawn to the right person. Does that make sense? And if that isn't the right person, they'll find you the right person. But the more people talk about it, the more it becomes normal, and the more it's a normal conversation to have with MD.
But it's so hard to make that first step, isn't it? Because with people that I know that have felt really low, motivation is the thing that they just can't get motivated.
I'm struggling with that just now. Like I'm not embarrassed now to say it. Like I am really struggling just now, and I can't even find it in me to go out and walk just now. And I used to run every day, and then when I stopped running, I used to walk every day. And even people in the street will say to me, I've not seen you out walking. I get no motivation. Don't know if it's because I'm not sleeping, and we're so busy. Like work is so busy, and all I'm doing is thinking about how we're going to keep this going. Like how can we not fold and keep helping these people? Like I was saying to you earlier, I'll never say to somebody we can't help you. We'll speak to every single person that contacts us. If we can't help them straight away, we'll find somebody that does. And I say to our counsellor Jane all the time, like, it's fine, we'll sort it, we'll find the money from somewhere.
And where do you get your sponsorship from?
Just now, it was always through events or just donations. Then when COVID happened, we were working with a few players quite quickly, like that were quite worrying, and I put out a tweet just to say, not an asking tweet, but just to say, although our service is all free, and that's the way I always wanted to be, because at the time when I was struggling, Mum and Dad didn't know at that point, so I had nothing. I couldn't have afforded to go and pay.
Here people can wait months and months, which, that's no use either.
So because this person stepped in and paid for me, I was fine. But people don't get that, so that's what I want Back Onside to do. So nobody, no matter what wage you're on, if you're on 16 grand a week as a footballer, or you're on universal credits, or you'll never be asked to pay. Because the last thing when you're struggling, even if you've got a lot of money, is to think, oh right, how much do you, or what's this going to cost me? Because that's another thing to be going in your head. So if somebody wants to repay us back when they're finished and they've got the money to do it, great, fantastic. If they don't, it's not expected. So when this happened, we put a tweet out to say that we were still offering services, however, because of COVID and restrictions and all our events being cancelled, we would have to do it at reduced cost, which to some people, we contacted a lot of people that we're working with already to say, look, we know you're not in the situation, so please just ignore it, but it's just future going forward, because we're getting so many calls now. And I woke up one morning, the morning after I put it out, and Andy Robertson, that plays for Liverpool, had put a big donation in our Just Giving page.
That's amazing.
Now,
football teams wouldn't, but I would have thought Scottish football teams would have, because they are promoting, mental health for everyone. But no.
Not financially. We've had a lot of like junior teams and things that will do wee fundraisers for us and promote us, but no.
No football teams? No football teams? Poor that, isn't it?
The thing is, it's hard because we try and get into all the football clubs. We work closely with Aberdeen and we work with Hibs and Annan, so we go in and talk to their players and their academy, especially academy kids, because I'm a great believer that they have to be educated now to start thinking of the future.
Mhm.
So when football finishes, or if they maybe don't get taken on after.
They get an injury, things change, things happen.
And it happens really
You,
quickly.
of course it does. You put all your eggs in one basket.
So we do that. But no, financially we don't get anything. But again, it's hard because I think we've had now to date probably nearly 150 professional footballers come to us, which is phenomenal. But they come to us because we're not part of a governing body within the football world. So we're not the PFA, we're not the SFA, and it's a completely separate thing.
Because I think a lot of people feel that as well. I know people who work for the council, whatever, they maybe don't want to say they've got mental health problem because they don't want it to go through on their notes, on their record that they've been referred to a counsellor, or they don't want that. They want it to be separate.
Through COVID, we've been working with a lot of NHS staff, emergency services, teachers, and they've all said the same, like, do we have to give your name at the beginning? Because they won't. I don't know, you don't have to say who you are if you just want to talk. Army people, like quite high up in the army, like, please don't, like, because I don't want this getting back, because I'm looking after X amount of people, but I'm really struggling. And it's only until we get past, like, till we move them on to the next stage, but by then they've got complete trust in us that that nothing's going to go anywhere, unless, and we always say that, unless there's a fear of them going to do something, then obviously we've got a duty of care and we'd have to contact their manager or their employer or something. But it's all really, really confidential, and I'm quite proud of that, because I think that's why we get the people we get through the door. I mean, we're averaging, going through our CBT professional courses, about 42 people a week just now.
That's unbelievable.
And that's with a waiting list, and also us trying to, like, I would say firefight. So we're trying to see everybody, but maybe not put them all in a 3-month programme. But a lot of people, especially just now, don't need counselling, don't need professional counselling, just need someone to talk to, and just someone to say, this is how I'm feeling, is this normal? But a lot of people just say, I just needed to offload, I just need to talk to someone, especially if you're all of a sudden went from working to then in your house with your partner and your kids, and living on top of each other, just to be able to phone and say, I'm feeling rubbish today.
But anybody can phone,
Anybody can
regardless of age, regardless.
Just
management, anything to do.
Just now,
It's Back Onside and it's got the football slant. It's actually nothing to do with football.
the football side is because we try, before COVID, we went and we tried to get into football clubs and make that community hub. So we have drop-in centres and people come along and just either talk, not talk, listen, have a cup of tea, and then we'd go outside and we'd have a kick about with football. And it was to try and encourage people to exercise as well as talk. And then we would do that with rugby, music, anything. So yeah, Back Onside has that football feel to it, and that's the nature of it, because that's originally what the plan was. But it's also getting people back on side, on the right side of life, and the right side of feeling. But no, anybody can contact us. Just now we're due to funding, we don't have a child counsellor, so it's about 17 and up we work with. But that's not to say that if somebody's struggling that's younger, because we've had a couple recently, we won't turn away, we'll help them, but it's just a wee bit harder, because it's a different kind of support you need to give a child. Before, we were getting into schools and we were doing like drop-ins at schools with the counsellor, and that worked really well, but obviously we can't get into any schools or anything just now, so we're trying to work a way of doing that. But yeah, no, anybody at all, anybody. And it's again, I think I have to clarify that everybody has mental health and we all need to look after it. Like, we wouldn't be sitting, and this, I said this to someone the other night, it really annoys me, we wouldn't be having this conversation if you had a broken foot and we were sitting here working out what to do with your broken foot.
I know, and how would I get help, and would it take 4 months or 5 months to get an appointment to see about my broken foot?
So why are you not embarrassed to say, oh, I've broke my foot or I've broke my arm, but yet we're embarrassed to say, I think my head's a wee bit broken just now, it's not quite right.
I think what you were saying as well, it's guilt, it's shame, it's not wanting to worry people, it's feeling, when you feel hurt or betrayed or you feel vulnerable in any way and low, the first thing people want to do is put the duvet over their head and just take to bed, and that's the opposite of
what you should
of what you should do.
But that's easy saying that, and I know that because that's how I am just now. Okay, the last few days I've been a lot better, but the last thing I want is for someone to be telling me when I'm curled up in my bed, you need to get out.
You need to go a walk. You need to do. That's the hardest thing in the world.
So as much as we have our counsellor who is like, that's her job is to get people in that space, but my job before that is to get them to just to talk and just to pull the duvet down a wee bit and go and meet me for a coffee and not talk about how they're feeling, just talk about what rubbish on the telly. I don't care if they've washed or whatever, like, that's not there to judge. So I think that's what a big part of is building up the trust first, and everybody else needs to understand, if you've got a friend or a family member and they're in their bed, don't give them a hard time. Don't say they need to get up. They don't need to do anything, but just be there to encourage them and to listen. And it's like if I go to my hairdressers and I'm not in the mood to talk, she knows I'm not in the mood to talk. Do you know what I mean?
It's terrible this, you can't hear other people's conversations when they've got the screens up now. I hate that.
The muffled mask.
Oh, it's terrible. That's the only thing I like if you go to the hairdresser. I can hear what other folk are saying.
But yeah, so I think we all just need to be a wee bit kinder to each other and less opinionated. And even that goes to like footballers that are doing stupid things just now, but everybody's doing stupid things.
Yeah.
But
be kind. Nobody's got the right to be judge and jury over anybody. Unless it's Judge Judy.
Unless it's Judge Judy. I'll get Judge Judy next time.
Please, could you?
But yeah, just be kind.
I was holding my breath, trying not to